Thank you. You may be seated. And an extra thank you to the program organizers who got the choir to lead us in song. It would have been a disaster if I had to do it. So thank you. I would obviously like to acknowledge in the room before we get started the Honorable Minister of Human Settlements, Minister Mamoloko Gubai. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the MEC for Human Settlements in Gauteng, MEC Motara, and the Director General, Dr. Alec Muemi, as well as the CEOs of department entities in the room, the DGGs of the department, senior managers, members from academia, and all the other stakeholders, including The media, you are welcome. Before we get going with the official program, I would just like to invite someone from the premises to lead us in the health and safety proceedings. I am told that there is someone there, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hilton Bilankulu, the head of security of the hotel. I'm going to give you the safety and security briefing. So remember, your safety is our priority. And to accomplish this goal, it is essential that you are familiar with the Radisson or Tambo emergency procedure to respond appropriately during an emergency. So when you hear the first alarm, please remain alert and prepare yourself for any possible evacuation. And when you hear the second continuous alarm, followed by an announcement on the public address system, please leave the floor immediately by using the exit door which is nearest to you, and the nearest exit which is allocated on the left and right of the floor. Radisson Fire Marshal will direct you to the assembly point, which is in front of the International Convention Center, ICC, by the parking area where you parked your car. Please do not use the lifts, try to re-enter the building, or go down to the car park until instructed it is safe to do so. The property is under CCTV surveillance. Security officer deployed strategically on the property 24/7. And on behalf of the Radisson management and fellow associates, we hope you will have an enjoyable and safe experience. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. I'm also told that we do have the pleasure of being in the company of the MEC for Free State, MEC Mokoena. You are welcome. Essentially, I would also like to welcome the audience that are tuned in virtually, who are streaming this event, those who couldn't be with us in person. My name is Fifi Peters, and it is an honor to be in your company today at the launch of what I am told is a different approach that the Department of Human Settlements is taking in terms of delivering housing, and one could even argue dignity to those who deserve it, a basic right for all South Africans in this country. And today is essentially about hearing the approach and the details thereof. You'll be addressed by quite a number of stakeholders, some of whom have made key contributions into this new way and strategy that the Department of Human Settlements is tackling the challenge and the opportunity of housing. You'll also be hearing various messages of support from those individuals who have been involved in the process and who do have valuable insights to share. But I think the most important, or one of the most important voices that the department is looking forward to hearing from is yourselves as stakeholders, those of you essentially who also have boots on the ground. So there will be an opportunity shortly after the tea break that we'll be having a little later on this morning for us to engage one another as stakeholders in the room about the practicality of the approach and the strategy that you'll be hearing. And I do hope at that point that we are interactive with one another. The mics are around, they'll be free for each and every one of us to use. And the same invitation to engage does go to those of you who are joining us online. There is a section there where you can pass through your comments, you can pass through your questions. We certainly would love to hear from you, and we certainly will be able to hear from you, so do feel free to chip away. On that note, I would now like to welcome the MEC for Human Settlements here in our host province, MEC Motara, who will be giving the official welcome remarks. A warm of applause, please.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Honorable Minister, Ms. Mamuluko Kubai, the Free State MEC for Human Settlements, MEC Saki Mokoena, in absentia, the Limpopo Human Settlements MEC, MEC Rogers Makamu, UN Habitat Executive Director, Ms. Ana Claudia Marinero Centino Rosbosch, who has joined us virtually, the DG of Research Strategy, Dr. Alec Moemi, the DG of the department and your team, members of the academia, and members of the various boards of the entities of the Department of Human Settlements, members of the media, esteemed guests, good morning. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you today as we gather to launch the Human Settlements Research Strategy, a pivotal moment for our country and for the future of human settlements across our nation. Welcome to Gauteng, the province that is the smallest in land size, but the most populous, and with the greatest number of backlog in the human settlements delivery. A province that accounts for 34% of the country's GDP, and the last data puts us as the 7th largest economy on the continent. Today, we embark on a transformative journey that aims to revolutionize how we approach human settlements, ensuring that our strategies are informed by robust, evidence-based research. This initiative is not just a response to the pressing challenges we face, it is a proactive step towards creating vibrant, sustainable communities that meet the needs of all our citizens. Research is the backbone of informed decision-making. It allows us to understand the complexities of human settlements, how they function, how they can be improved, and how we can ensure equitable access to housing and services for all our citizens. By systematically studying our projects and their impacts, we will identify best practices, address challenges head-on, and innovate solutions that are tailored to the unique dynamics of not only our province, but the country as a whole. The Human Settlements Research Strategy will enable us to gather critical data, analyze trends, and engage with communities to understand their needs better. This approach will not only enhance our current projects, but will also inform future initiatives, ensuring that they are responsive, but also effective. Moreover, our commitment to research aligns with our broader vision of building resilient communities. We recognize that human settlements are not merely about bricks and mortar, they are about fostering social cohesion, economic opportunities, and environmental sustainability. This strategy will empower us to create spaces where people can thrive, where families can grow, and where communities can flourish. I urge all of us here today, policymakers, researchers, community leaders, and all stakeholders, to embrace this strategy wholeheartedly. Let's collaborate, share knowledge, and harness our collective expertise to drive meaningful change. Together, we can ensure that our human settlements agenda is not only ambitious, but also grounded in reality. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has contributed to this process. Your hard work and dedication are invaluable as we move forward. Let's look ahead with optimism and determination as we launch this Human Settlements Research Strategy, paving the way for a brighter future for our province and for the country as a whole. Welcome to Gauteng. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, MEC Mutara. I would also then like to invite MEC Mutara, as well as the DG, as well as the Minister of Human Settlements, Minister Kubai, to come and join me on stage. I'm told that I'm looking a bit isolated on stage and lonely, and I think it will also make for a much better picture purposes. So can I just ask the Minister to lead the delegation firstly by joining me on stage, followed once again by MEC Mutara. Also, can we please have DG Dr. Alec Moemi, as well as the MEC for Human Settlements, in the Free State, MEC Mokoena. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. You have made the stage look impeccably furnished, and I think the photographers thereof will have a lot more to appreciate. Moving on, as many of you would be aware, today also marks World Habitat Day, which I recently learned is marked on the first Monday of October. Interesting theme that the United Nations does have this year in terms of involving young people more in the planning process of how their spaces that they will call home and are calling a home are tackled. I think that this is a really relevant theme for this year, just given the fact that if you look at the number of young people that do occupy the population of most cities, particularly here in Africa as well as in Asia, it is the majority, and therefore they should be at the front of the table when it does come to planning what their respective locales do look like. So at this stage, I'd like for us to watch this video from the United Nations. Will be addressed by the Executive Director for UN Habitat on this World Habitat Day.
This World Habitat Day, we celebrate you, the young, the brave, and the change makers of today and tomorrow. You are at the heartbeat of our cities, the force driving us toward a better future. As baby boomers and Generation X pass the baton, we need millennials and Gen Z to step up and shape our world. World Habitat Day was set up by the UN General Assembly to reflect on the state of the cities and human settlements and the right to adequate housing. But today, we invite you not simply to reflect, but to act. This year's theme, Engaging Youth to Create a Better Urban Future, calls on young people to lead the way in shaping a world that reflects our shared dreams. Adequate and equitable housing is not just a right, it must become a reality for all. We live in a time of multiple crises: housing, conflict, and climate. 1 billion people are struggling in slums, and over 300 million face the unbearable reality of homelessness. These are not just numbers. They are young families, your friends, and your peers calling out for safety, dignity, and hope. Sustainable urban planning and housing are at the heart of our fight for a better urban future. Housing is the foundation of sustainable development. It impacts everything from poverty reduction and gender equality to climate action. And it empowers you, the youth, to build the future you deserve. On this World Habitat Day, we invite you to engage with us to find solutions and ensure that the right to housing and sustainable cities and communities is our reality. Together, we can create a world where no one is left behind.
Thank you. We shall applaud for her in her absence from the physical room, but no doubt her virtual presence was well felt in telling us to not only reflect on this World Habitat Day, of course, but also to act. And I think that many of you, and even myself as a journalist who has been covering the story of South Africa for well over 10 years, we are aware of our challenges, but we're also aware that we have been placed at a beautiful nexus right now to chart a better course. And I think that the purpose of today really is just to talk about that better course and the solutions on the table to come and address a lot of the backlogs. And so to set the scene formally for today and set the scene for the research strategy more specifically, I would like to ask Dr. Alec Moemi to take the mic from me and lead us in the insights that were drawn from the strategy. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Ms. Fifi Peters. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister, Mamluko Kubai, the Minister of Human Settlements, and her colleagues, the two provincial MECs, being the MEC of the host province, Honorable Tasnim Mutara, and also the MEC for the Free State Province, Honorable Saki Mukwena. Allow me just to highlight that today being UN Habitat Day, Minister deemed it fit that it be a good day for us to launch our research strategy, and this being given the thoughts and considerations, some of which are reflected and echoed by the Director General of UN Habitat, and in which she does state that we have to think hard about the solutions and to act here to ensure that we are able to provide everybody who require shelter and housing to have those needs fulfilled. UN Habitat itself has been a pioneer in harnessing the global thoughts towards addressing local challenges in several countries which it operates in. And I wish to go straight to the presentation, which seems to set the scene in this regard. If it could be flattered, please. If not, I will just speak to it, Minister. It's not being flattered, so I'll speak to it. In short, Honorable Minister, we have decided that we review where we come from and we address the challenge facing us. South Africa has a big challenge of housing backlog, and we have a challenge of a constricting economy that is not raising sufficient resources enough to address the challenges we have. And accordingly, we have said that the answer going forward lies with doing a lot more with the little we have in terms of the resources. This speaks to quite innovative solutions, and it also speaks to the need for us to find ways and means and the best ways of doing things. And we also have got to live by the maxim of getting things right the first time, so that we do not have a wastage of resources. Again, in this regard, we have then decided that we would prepare a strategy that will indeed articulate the strategic direction and also map forward for us the research and associated activities the department needs to undertake, with a viewpoint of utilizing this research as a basis for better policy formulation, but also as a basis for us to respond to. The Government of National Unity in the 7th administration has dedicated itself based on the statement of intent. One of the pillars of this statement speaks to evidence-based policy making and policy formulation. We as a Department of Human Settlements subscribes to this as part of this government and seeks to take that maxim forward and to ensure that we live and truly make it our nature of doing and nature of working. And therefore, we have set ourselves out that this should be the values and principles that underpin our research philosophy to influence our integrated as well as sustainable human settlements, development needs and patterns. We also believe in this regard that we should anchor our objectives of policy proposals of the white paper for human settlements that is currently under review, that it should be able to respond to the department's mandate as defined in section 26 of the South African Constitution of 1996. Additionally, the strategy we are putting forth today, and which Minister would speak to some of the key silent elements of, seeks to enable the human settlement sector to respond to the country commitments outlined in the National Development Plan of our country. Again, the main objective of the Human Settlements Research Strategy is to serve as a framework for collaboration on human settlements research and promotion of intersecting knowledge on human settlements interest, specifically to help us outline the department's vision and goals in relation to building the department's capability through effective research partnerships, and also to ensure that the department is abreast with the existing body of knowledge on human settlements, to inform data-driven policy making and create an environment to address operational challenges that we are currently besieged with. It also gives effect to the creation of knowledge management hub and effective knowledge management systems within our own department and contribute to government's broader knowledge base. Our key considerations of this strategy is based on the priorities of government laid out in the priorities of government of the 7th administration, but also an inclusive economic growth and job creation, reduction of poverty and tackling the high cost of living, and also rebuilding the capability of the state, and also ensuring that we are able to deliver basic services. This, corresponding with these priorities of government, the medium-term development plan indeed outlines some of them, and in summary, achieving livable neighborhoods and spatial transformation, achieving access to adequate housing, transformation of the human settlement sector, and also alignment of the government priorities. In the MTDP, we had laid out some of the key proposals Minister will speak to, but of import and in summary, the strategy hinges itself on those proposals that we have placed in the medium-term development plan of our country. And this speaks to the adoption of the approach to human settlements and the utilization of this approach to package, sequence, and resource the human settlements development projects that are in the pipeline. But secondly, we are also looking at a longer-term development plan for human settlements and land acquisition pipeline. Land acquisition having been one of the key challenges facing us over time. The key ways and tenets in which this could be linked together in a seamless plan has dogged our approach for a long time, and the strategy seeks to research ways and means in which we can be able to achieve this. In as far as infrastructure development is concerned, we have identified the priority housing development areas, but of import is the issue of catalyzing this spatial transformation and them as a base in which we are able to bridge the spatial divide. Research in this area is therefore critical in ensuring that we are able to not just say it, but to move from stated intentions and words to actionable ways and means of implementation. When it comes to the human settlements priorities, we believe that inclusive growth, job creation, as well as development of capable and ethical and developmental state should now move far beyond concepts and to more actionable pieces, and action research in this area of work would be most appropriate for us to achieve our desired outcomes within the shortest space of time. The importance of research in our space cannot be overemphasized. I need to then indicate that our research agenda would underpin itself on this strategy and on the pillars that I have communicated, and to indicate that in this regard, we will aim to uniformly identify research gaps to enable effective contribution to achievement of government priorities, to encourage research collaboration and advance in the creation of integrated and sustainable human settlements, and to also foster capacity building by encouraging students to participate in the human settlement sector research while promoting professionalization of the sector. To that extent, it is our stated intention to expand on our current instruments, including our bursary policy, to ensure that this becomes a reality. The key themes emanating from this and in our research agenda linked to the strategy are around incremental housing, densification, sectional title arrangements, affordable rental and social housing, informal settlements, title deeds and property transfer arrangements, innovative building technologies, climate change, emerging housing, supply side of the housing market, infrastructure, land, funding mechanisms, planning and intergovernmental relations, and cross-cutting themes around all of these gender issues, entrepreneurship, youth employment, housing legislation, and so on. That said and done is what we are here today for, to then unpack what goes into this strategy as well as what goes into the research agenda. And we believe that this would help us revitalize our sector and bring the necessary vibrancy and impetus for us to move with greater certainty and speed in implementing our stated objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thanks once again to the department, of course, for putting this event together in partnership with the Sowetan. I think those of you that do follow the financial markets or do have vested interest in financial markets and your investments there would know that the period July to September has been a good one for it, and it's been because of the GNU that you have spoken about, sir. In fact, in the financial markets from July to September, which is the third quarter, we had a record performance from the JSE. And if you look at a lot of the stocks that push the JSE to this record, it's stocks that are faced here in South Africa, have their bread and butter here in South Africa, and actually quite a number of construction and infrastructure stocks. And we were told by those CEOs when we spoke with them was that it was optimism and hope that this GNU would deliver. The president has recently committed to a target of 3%, and I think that that would help, if met, address a lot of the challenges that perhaps have led to the challenges in delivering an adequate shelter and housing. On that note, I would like to welcome the minister now. It has been an interesting journey walking with her on the sidelines of whatever portfolio she has been given in government. But it has been my view that whatever portfolio she's given, she does tackle it with the seriousness and the veracity that it deserves. And so for now, to hear for her thoughts on the tackling of human settlement right now, ladies and gentlemen, please a warm welcome for the Minister, Minister Mamoloko Kubai. I am told there is a program change. No? Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Fifi. We were juggling around, so I think the briefings notes didn't arrive. Good to see you again. We always see each other when we are at WEF in the snow. Thank you very much. I might have to change. Thank you very much, Fifi, as our program director. Let me acknowledge the presence of the MEC for Human Settlements in Gauteng, MEC Tasneem Mutara, acknowledging the MEC for Coxstar in Free State, MEC Mukwena, the National Research Foundation Chief Executive Officer, Prof. Fulufelo Nelwa Mondo, Universities South Africa, Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Petiwe Matutu, Council for Science and Industrial Research, commonly known as CSIR, Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Tulani Dlamini, Human Science Research Council, Chief Executive Officer, Prof. Sarah Musweta, members of the Ministerial Advisory Panel and advisors to the Minister, the Director General of the Department of Human Settlements, Dr. Muyemi, and senior managers, executives of our entities. I've seen the CEO of PPRA, the CEO of NHPRC, the acting chief ombudsman for CISOs, and the CFO of CISOs. I don't know if I've missed somebody else, executives here. Panelists who have joined us here, and most importantly, as we have committed previously, our partners, Sowetan Dialogue. I think it's important for me to highlight this. We've agreed that as a sector, we are going to formulate partnerships that will leverage and on each other with our partners, but enhance our work. So I'm happy today that we have Sowetan partnering with us as part of enhancing our message and collaborating with us to be able to deliver on our services. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite a great great moment and excitement for me as we gather here today, one, to celebrate the World Habitat Day, but most importantly linked to the launch of our Human Settlements Research Agenda. As a former Minister of Science and Technology, many of the colleagues who are sitting here have had the privilege to work with, but most importantly, as a student in University of Johannesburg, I am excited that this work that is starting today, it is in collaboration with universities, and we can enhance our work to ensure that not only do we leverage on each other, but we can be able to find solutions that are research-based. This year we celebrate World Habitat Day under the theme, Engaging Youth to Create a Better Urban Future. As a country that has a youth bulge, this year's theme that recognizes that cities are becoming home to a new generation of leaders and change makers, and that young people are at the heart of transformation, and we have to find resonance to this, but we have to ensure that they drive the transformation themselves. The participation of the young people in all spheres of society can no longer be postponed. The sooner we find ways to make the youth an integral part of our programs, the better. As a sector, we already have set aside for the youth in terms of our procurement, which is a deliberate effort and action on our part to increase youth participation in the sector. This is in terms of youth employment, but most importantly as well, in terms of being able to participate in the economic activities with their businesses and be able to start building their companies. We do note that this work in terms of where we set the target as a sector, we have not yet met this target holistically. And this commitment we have made in the 7th administration and the GNU government that we are going to accelerate, ensuring that we meet the targets for young people as we are doing with women in the sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's World Habitat Day is a reminder that we need to do more. Not only just set asides, not only just employment, but full in terms of decision-making for young people to be able to participate and feel valued. This is their future. They have to be part of making sure that they provide solutions to this future. But we do believe that they will help us find innovative ways as dynamic and innovative as young people are always being. Some who are following this launch today, especially on our media platforms, might be asking themselves a question: why does human settlement need research and a research agenda? Some of you might be saying we should stop researching and talking too much and being too academic and abstract and just get on with building the houses. However, those who make an effort to look closely to the human settlement sector, they would realize that the sector has multiple dimensions, which include social, economic, psychological aspects of a human existence. Each of these aspects evolves on its own and also co-evolve with other aspects in ways that makes human settlements, planning, design, and development a complex exercise. As you are aware, we are in the final stages of our new human settlements white paper development process, policy development process. The new white paper policy will provide an enabling overarching policy framework for the delivery of sustainable human settlements, and that are spatially integrated, inclusive, and equitable through a holistic approach involving robust stakeholders' engagement. Flowing from the policy review and policy proposal of the white paper, the housing code will be reviewed and rewritten to encompass the new approaches to give effect to the delivery of an integrated and sustainable human settlement. This review will inform the development of a strategic plans across the sector, this meaning in the national department, in the provinces, but most importantly, in also our districts. It will help us to have a focus in terms of our implementation, but make sure that as government, we are able to implement the work that we want to do with our partners across government, business, academia, and civil society, so that there is a policy coherence and certainty in South Africa. There's been a criticism that human settlements policy has experienced considerable inertia and a dearth of fresh thinking, particularly in a way it has been institutionalized and implemented. Our critics further says that there's been little systematic reflection on past practices or deliberate experimentation with new ideas, agendas, policy instruments, and initiatives such as inclusionary housing, new building technologies, urban densification, the release of well-located land, and small-scale rental housing. The decision we took as the Human Settlements Portfolio to review our policies was an admission that we need to shift the sector to evidence-based policy making and program implementation, but to change gear in terms of the pace and scale of what we are doing. Thus, the launch of the research agenda is a demonstration of our intentional and deliberate change of approach to resolving human settlements challenges to a more evidence-based approach. Though there may be areas that require basic research, which must be pursued, we believe that central to our research agenda should be applied research. This means our agenda will place some emphasis on the notion that I know to be very unpopular with academics, and that is the return on investment. I say this, ladies and gentlemen, considering our fiscal constraints and the budget cuts that we have experienced through National Treasury, because this is imperative that as government, we continue to learn to do more with less. And as we partner, this is the message as well we communicate to you. The research that we fund needs to give us tangible outcomes that positively impact our work and developing human settlements. The sector, as you are well aware, is faced with a myriad of challenges, which includes climate change, population growth, low income growth, urbanization, slow spatial transformation, and governance instability, especially at local government level. In the world that is undergoing rapid urbanization, many villages are facing a series of problems such as depopulation, population aging, insufficient infrastructure, and public service facilities that are not adequate. While most of our work has been focused on responding to the challenges of accessing urban land for human settlements, the sprouting of informal settlements and the rise of inner city slums remains a challenge of unsustainable human settlements in urban areas, but more as well, saying to us we need to pay attention to what we are doing in rural areas so that people do not continue to want to migrate to urban areas, but they can still feel comfortable and secured within their rural areas. Improving the rural human settlement, both in terms of rural ecological environment and the creation of a healthy rural human settlements environment, are areas that requires intensive research. Not only will this help us to reinvigorate rural development, but it will also assist us with the mitigating factors and mitigating actions against climate change and its effect. You'd have heard me talk about the partnership that we are launching with traditional leaders across the country, where we would want to ensure that traditional leaders, when they allocate land or allocate sites for communities, they do so within the areas that are suitable for human settlements. Well-researched solutions are required as an antidote to these challenges so that we can be able to create a peaceful, economically sustainable, and stable country. It is therefore stands to reason that we would like to place more emphasis on applied research, which will help us to provide solutions to existing problems. The research agenda that we are launching today has been developed to do the following, amongst others: to inform planning, policy development, and review, as well as implementation processes within the human settlement sector. The research agenda will assist to uniformly identify problematic areas that need to be resolved within the policy and implementation space. It will also assist to signal to funders and development partners what research areas requires investment. It will further assist the department to guide resource allocation for research. It will encourage research collaboration in dealing with common problematic areas, and also drive capacity building by encouraging students to participate in the human settlement sector research, more in terms of ensuring that we can drive that postgraduate students do not do research that gather dust in the drawers and libraries, but research that can be utilized by us as institutions, organizations, and government, that helps us find solutions to the challenges that we are facing as a country. Ladies and gentlemen, as it is generally acknowledged, the nexus between policy, research, and practice is not linear, but it is highly complex. The department is of the view that research cannot be expected to serve only current policies, but it is also expected to influence policy and practice in the long term. The scope of the human settlement research agenda is therefore broad, so that the selection of certain areas and topics for priority will not be exhaustive. However, it marks the focus in the next 3 financial years. There is extensive research in human settlements as we do this work that we need to acknowledge. We are not starting from scratch. We have already conducted, actually, many institutions have already done this research, and what we need to do is to leverage on this existing research and also invest in further research in the sector. So expanding on what has been done, closing on the gaps that exist will be critical. And that's why we emphasize the issue of research collaboration, where different organizations will work together to fund specific research of common interest, as this will be encouraged. The department will pursue various collaborative approaches so that we can be able to see this as a reality, but gain value for what we want to do. Furthermore, as I said, in my previous capacity, I used to be Minister of Science and Technology. One of the areas I found very interesting and working very well was the SACHI chairs. It's able to get us to focus on specific areas, but ensures that we can be able to put money in that area and get value out of it. So the department intends to establish research chairs with institutions of higher learning, where we'll be able to support research based for their expertise. We do note that some of the universities are battling with funding, and that's why their work is limited in many areas. This is to be able to assist us to be able to drive the research agenda of the Department of Human Settlements, but encourage universities, encourage researchers so that they can participate. This as well as part of ensuring that there's a pipeline of young people that can be taken into these SACHI chairs as part of their developmental growth. As I said, postgraduate students as well will be encouraged to select their academic topics from the research agendas or have a topic within the thematic areas established in the research agenda. The Departmental Research Committee will approve the topical issues that the students selected for funding. Part of the research will be funded directly by the department through the commissioning of research call for papers, as well as providing part of the funding to students' academic programs. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the milestones today again, it is a collaborative framework agreement that will be signed with all stakeholders. We do believe that this is a foundation that we are laying for our work to continue, but more importantly, a certainty that says it's not a once-off event, it's not a talk show, but an action-oriented process that marks the beginning today. I think this is a major step in the right direction for research work in our sector, and I firmly believe that we will change our sector and our country for better to the benefit of the people of South Africa. As we mark another year of World Habitat Day, let us join hands and work hard to ensure that our people enjoy the right to adequate shelter. And we continue to say, as our motto say, there shall be security, comfort, and houses. Thank you.
Thank you. So on that note, with the opening marks having delivered and the scene being beautifully set, we're going to take pause for a brief tea break for around 10 minutes or so. And I'd also encourage those of you who are tuned in virtually on the Sowetan platform to do the same, grab a tea or coffee. We'll be back, and perhaps in that time, maybe you can think about some of the contributions you would like to make, as you do hear from many of the industry stakeholders who will be continuing with the program for us and also making their own contributions. So tea will be served where breakfast was served, right there on the left, and we will see you shortly. Thank you. Okay, and once again, welcome back to our audience who are joining us in the virtual room today. So we have come to the interactive part of today, where we will be hearing from some of your colleagues in the academic fraternity, but also hearing from yourselves as stakeholders in the industry about this new strategy the Human Settlements Department is launching today, one that is got research at its core of how it does implement policy and make decisions, as we heard, not only for today, but also for future. So to lead us in this discussion, looking at research as an enabler of innovative human settlement developments, and more specifically the role of the youth in this planning process, I would like to invite the following speakers on stage, whom will be presenting to you individually and whom you'll also have the opportunity to speak to and ask any questions about the area of research that they are going to present to you, beginning with Ms. Nomonde Gwebu, who is a PhD candidate from Wits University. Please join me on stage. come through that way. I think it might be easier for everyone to come through from this way. Also, Mr. Rifilwe Lidiga, PhD candidate at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you, you're welcome. Mr. Elliot Matebula, a PhD candidate at the, or a PhD, he's got it, candidate at the University of South Africa. Also, members from the academic or academia, being led by Ms. Emma Ayesu Korateng from the Nelson Mandela University. Wonderful, and last but not least, Dr. George Akwechuku Onatu from the University of Johannesburg. Take your time, sir. As I said, each of our speakers here will be addressing us on their particular area of research, helping to contribute to what the Department of Human Settlements is trying to achieve here. And I would like to invite Ms. Nomonde, and I see that you have done some work towards an alternative low-income housing model. And I'd like to invite you to present your findings and your research to us, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning to all. Thank you for this opportunity. It certainly is an honor to be here. The topic, research as an enabler of innovative human settlements and the role of the youth. My views are from the perspective of being an architect, of being a lecturer at the University of the Witwatersrand, and being a PhD candidate, all specializing in housing and human settlements in all these roles. I'll jump right in. What are the factors that prevent research from being an enabler of innovative human settlements development? Problem number one. In South Africa's universities, students and researchers of the built environment describe with sincere passion wanting to contribute to the development of South Africa's marginalized areas as the reason for their selected career path. In practice, however, the path from university study or research to having an impact on the ground is unclear and difficult to navigate. This lack of clarity on how specializing in human settlements research will lead to having an impact on the ground discourages otherwise committed academics and professionals, like architects, planners, and urban designers, from pursuing deep knowledge and professional expertise in the critical area of human settlements. Problem number two. The Department of Human Settlements has achieved notable quantitative outputs of housing, human settlements, and policy. South Africa's academic institutions possess internationally rated human settlements researchers and research outputs, while industry has its own way of producing housing products. But these three stakeholders largely operate in isolation. Though meeting periodically in forums like this, there's no structure in place to ensure a seamless, continuous flow of data, findings, and insights between the government, academia, and industry. How can these key inhibiting factors be addressed? By going from A, the status quo, where stakeholders operate in silos, to B, establishing meaningful connections between the National Department of Human Settlements, academia, and industry. Here, I will use my own research to illustrate the point. As a background, housing delivered to low-income earners by the government in many cases is intended as a starting point from which the recipient can build and grow. A chapter of my research, an excerpt is shown here, is a case study that investigates how the starting point concept can be spatialized architecturally within the current financial quantum. The case study or chapter I will draw from is called Evolving Architecture, from temporary to permanent housing in Johannesburg, South Africa. By applying various building techniques, the case study residents of Stretla, Alexandra, have developed a method of evolving their state-delivered temporary zinc sheeting homes into permanent brick and mortar structures. Row A shows a typical street view of what was initially delivered. Row B shows the same street 9 years later. And row C shows the step-by-step process undertaken by the recipients to evolve the dwellings from temporary to permanent housing. The key finding is that where the state experiences economic constraints in its delivery of temporary housing, the research went on to identify specific, more carefully selected materials to deliver as a start because of their potential to be evolved by their users into permanent housing. The broader research is done by Similar Architectural Design Atelier, engaging communities to reimagine RDP or BNG housing in one case study, and social housing in another case study, led by design, but within the current financial parameters. So how can academic research outputs like this be linked to the research agenda and implementation strategy of the Department of Human Settlements? And how can graduate opportunities to develop and implement research outputs like this be made available on the ground? The Department of Human Settlements, as I'm glad I've heard today, can materialize these connections and foreground the youth in its rightful place by firstly, collaborating with academia to provide postgraduate bursaries for youth in its research or professional training specializing in human settlements. But secondly, offering graduate opportunities for research outputs to be further developed and implemented on live case studies that are in dire need of development. These two strategic moves by the Department of Human Settlements would enable research outputs to facilitate innovative settlements development and would place South Africa's youth at the heart and forefront of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nomonde. A very important presentation, I think, made just regarding the silos that everyone operates in and how important it is to close the loop. So we'll move on to our next speaker then, who will build on what Nomonde has mentioned, but also speak to using 3D concrete printing to automate the construction of low-cost housing by leveraging machine learning. Individual who's clearly eager, stood up even before an introduction was made, but we'll allow him. He understands the urgency of the project we're addressing now. Refilwe, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Yes, I can't wait to share the information. Okay, is this on? Yes. Yeah, very eager to share the information, Fifi. But yeah, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Refilwe Dicha, and I just thought that for this conference topic, we'll look at a case study or some research that we've conducted at the University of Johannesburg regarding 3D printing and how that could impact the social housing and the DHS overall. Now, just for some context, Minister, the research objective was to explore the use of 3D concrete printing technologies for eradicating the housing backlog, which is something that the DG has also elaborated on. Now, this is for a 40 square meter house, an RTP house. The picture on the right just shows the system and it printing one of the walls for the buildings. And what we decided to use for this project was essentially a robotic arm system. So using essentially robotics to build houses. Now, the research study was with the University of Johannesburg under SMECT, led by Professor Mahachi, and that's really the context of the research study. But I want to just move into what is 3D printing and how could it impact or help optimize the production of houses? I have 3 videos, and I'm going to play the first one on the left, which just gives you a sense of how the process is undertaken. As you see, there's a robot arm, essentially using 3D printing technology fundamentally to build layers. So that's one of the first few layers. So I'm going to move from that to the second one. The robot is maybe 5 to 10 minutes through the process of printing this wall for this RTP house. As you can see, the process is largely automated, of course, with support from people on site. Now, this is towards the end. So this wall is around 2.3 meters, essentially just completing one of the first walls for the house that we're building. So I just thought I'd show this to just give a sense of what the technology is and what it can do, right? Now, just to then also give an aerial view, as you can see, this is a 40 square meter house, as I mentioned. We've got around 13 wall elements here. And and the system has essentially been built by a robot and a robotic arm. And remember, robotic arms don't get tired. They can print throughout the night. They don't have a union. So they're quite helpful. So I thought I'd show that aerial view there of the completed wallings, the different walls. And for me, this is one of the most important slides, right? So each wall element took around 45 minutes. We had 13 wall elements. So 45 minutes times 13, that's 8 hours. So essentially it took us 8 hours to put up the walls for this house, right? Speaking to the speed that's required in eradicating or putting up social housing. Just for information, in terms of uptake with regards to the technology, we see a lot of activity in North America and in Asia, but what we're starting to see now is that more and more countries in Africa and South America are participating, basically based on the value this technology can bring to putting up houses. Then on the right is really just the number of projects that have been built. What you see is, of course, exponential growth in terms of adoption as more and more contractors and government are seeing value in this technology. Now, just to speak to the theme of today's conference, the ladies you see on the left are the ladies that were part of this process. So essentially contractors, we call them modern contractors. Obviously more tech-orientated and so forth, but key is that they've got limited construction experience. So it's an avenue for young people that are technology-orientated and so forth to get involved in construction and so forth. Now, there's a time and cost benefit as well in terms of the research that we've collated so far. So there's a value prop there. And another key one, especially in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, we find ways to integrate green material and so forth to reduce carbon emission. We do acknowledge, though, that it's a disruptor, in the sense that we don't need bricklayers, for example, on site, because the system essentially takes care of that, right? But in the same breath, we need to be socially responsible. Our research has showed that there's no net loss of jobs on site. It's just upskilling and repositioning. So I think that's very important, especially in the context of SA. So I think this is an opportunity, Minister, as the research has been conducted, and we want to get to commercialization of that research. And this is against what you've said around that research shouldn't gather dust, right? Research shouldn't gather dust and should be applied, and that's support and collaboration we hope we'll get. And maybe for MEC Motara, we've engaged with the city of Johannesburg, and we hope to build a smart village. They've committed, and I hope we can hold them accountable, MEC. But thank you very much.
Thank you. I think often we hear that technology can help us leapfrog, and it was nice to see that leapfrog in action with the short amount of time it does take to erect walls, and also the fact that it's a net positive, as you say, in terms of positioning for jobs. I imagine quite a number of bricklayers who'd be happy to be relieved of that particular service, particularly on a hot summer's day. or, with the climate that we're experiencing right now with, heavy rains and sometimes snow. But I also imagine them being welcomed to being upskilled and repositioned elsewhere within the value chain. So let's move on with our presentations, giving us the understanding of the beneficiary perceptions of self-help versus state-driven housing programs, and exploring the case of Tshwane. Mr. Elliot Matibula, I invite you, sir.
Is it good morning? Good morning.
Still good morning.
Yeah, good morning, colleagues. And yeah, mine, I think, let me just, my point of departure is to say, when I saw this invite, I was so happy to say, indeed, the fruit of the GNU is in full-fledged, because now we see the collaboration that is happening between the implementers and also some of the researchers and also the community. So mine, what I'm trying to communicate today is the snippets of some of the of my start result here that they have to do with, but my interest is only on poor urban groups. Hence, I went to focus more on self-help, which is self-built in other ways. They can be so-called also self-built and state-driven housing. So I wanted to share some of the results that I got, and also some of the challenges that I've seen with the current policies that are being implemented. And I realized from my master's studies that sometimes the challenge or the problem is not the implementation. I think the problem is what we are implementing, the policies. Therefore, I came to say, no, let me just focus. I wanted to take another 10, but I said, let me focus on the policy now, on my PhD. Hence, I came to this topic to say, I want to see how we can propose a policy that is tailored to the context of South Africa, especially the urban context, to say how can the best model to deliver the housing that is affordable, and also not only affordable to the beneficiaries, but also to the state. Hence, I brought this. So I start to say, initially I have a presentation, but I thought maybe let me just do but I thought let me just go without, this is my study. And also I want to thank Minister and the department for this opportunity, for also bringing the academics and the research in trying to find solution, and also in developing the policies that are aligned with the needs of the people. So the aims, so I try to say, let me just try to link my study, my current study, of which I'm about to deliver the study now. So I just don't need some synapses, so that I link it to the theme of today. So I have three main issues that I need to focus on. Yes, given the limited of time, the constraint of time is the policy, and the special transformation, and the improvement of people, the poor people, who we know most of them were disadvantaged during the apartheid, and the pattern continued even after apartheid. I know we'll be speaking about transformation of the special arrangement in the urban setting, something that we are yet to witness, because it has not happened now. But I believe now with this initiative is something that we are going to achieve, and also through research is something that we are going to achieve. So I'll start the policies. There are two policies here. The self-help and the RDP houses. So just to give a background of self-help is, most of them, we had once community and a settlement in Soshanguve, which was self-help. And also those, if you check, I know most of us, when we thought of shacks, it's something that's undesirable. But according to study, and some of the study that have been done, and lived experience that have been done by one of the prominent advocate of this self-help, which is Turner, JFC Turner, is that indeed it's good to start with a shack, because that shack is a housing process and can never be, hence we say, and I believe also is the government, the police also positioned to say, we must accept and embrace shacks that are strategically, but they must be also strategically placed. Most of the shacks and settlement inside in the urban setting, I think they are discarded, are far away from the cities and the towns where we know there are opportunities. Therefore, it's like we are saying, go and being poor far away from us. That's how they are. And also, we see also the extension of townships, which were also not as self-created but enforced by the apartheid government. So we see even the democratic government is also increasing in terms of transforming or bringing the people close to the cities. We still see the extension of those settlements in the far away from let's say from the former apartheid, I think, the Cream settlements, which were mainly occupied by the whites, but now is a combination of the whites and also the middle class. So mine was to check to say, what are the benefits and the challenge that we are facing from those ones? And I realized to say, as I was doing my study, I realized to say, indeed, there's a police position that needs to be changed or to be transformed. And one of the things that I realized to say, if indeed you are going, let me just put for a record to say there's no country around the world that have addressed the issue of housing, mainly for the poor through the fully subsidized initiative. It's something that has never happened. Those, like, if you check countries like Singapore, South Korea, I think it's Taiwan, there is a combination of public self-help and also the public policies, public housing policies. Therefore, in South Africa, I think let's try to find a solution of which that we can help to deliver the housing for the people, but also try to, because we know the government in reality doesn't have the capacity, not only the South African government, all the government do not have capacity to house poor people through the self-help, through the public housing, which is in the context of South Africa is fully subsidized. Therefore, I said, how can we try to address this issue of bring the people close to the city and also have a police that will be able to relinquish sort of a government from not totally, but somewhat relinquish the government from some of the duty the government is providing to the people. So my study also came to realize to say there is also need of beneficial inclusion. They must also play the part. So is to say, and let me just put on record to say, as I was doing the study, I realized to say most of the people who receive the public houses are young people. And as young as they are, and I think their contribution is just to occupy the house that has already been built. And sometimes you ask them, where is your house? They said, I don't know, I'm just waiting for the call to come and sign the happy letter. So I was like, no, I think there's also a chance and a gap that the youth also, and the young people, and women in particular also, I think they are most affected, women and youth. Because if you check, most of the households are headed by women. And if you check also on the demand, you see more women are demanding housing more than men. Therefore, I realized to say, and also we can take it historical, but for the sake of time, let's just go. So I was trying to say, let's try to bridge the gap, like to say, to transform the special arrangement and also try to sort of to tailor the policy to the needs of the people. To say, let's try to say, also, these also informed by the beneficial perceptions and also by literature. To say, let's remove the government from constructing the houses and bring to a policy sort of assisted self-help where the government play its role of providing the land and the services. However, given the economy of the South Africa, I realize it's even the people themselves, they confirm to say there is a need for sort of assisted in terms of material. However, the construction must be done by the people themselves, which I think, according to self-help, This will be a sort of a assisted self-help where the beneficiary have to contribute something. And also, they must also be in charge of all the process. There must be a control, the dweller control and the freedom to build, where the designing of the house must be by the government, by the people. The construction of the house must be by the people. And just to accommodate them, because I realize in Tswane, there are only two after apartheid communities that have been brought close to town. It's in Lady Selbord and Denville, the RDP that were there. And I realized also people were fighting the issue of value. The value of the house was going down because of the presence of that. Then I was like, is it good? Are we weighing more on the value of the houses than the value of improving the lives of our people? So I would say the government, from the start, it's a policy, a proposition to say, that I'm also propose in my study to say, instead, the government, the money was the public housing is not public housing in nature. It can be in paper, but in reality, it's a combination of private and public, because who are building are the private sectors, and we know that's where most of the money is wasted. So to say, let's remove that aspect and let the people build their own houses at their own pace, because the people must build their own house at their own pace, and also they must, I believe they will transform the settlement, the shacks into a so-called conventional housing, which I don't believe. I believe also even the shack is a conventional housing, depending on who the owner is. To the people, is a conventional housing that can be transformed. Therefore, the government must bring in is a proposition that I think I'm going to produce from my study to say, let the government don't build the houses, but assist the people with the land, title deeds, and services. This also will assist, will motivate people to build their houses. Like in rural areas, we know we have few shacks, but people are building their own houses. So we must remove all those, the time frame and everything, and the quality and the planning and everything, because our people will build the houses that respond to their context and their needs. That's my proposition from this one. But I believe also the study is not, when I'm done, I believe it won't also gather the dust in the library, as has already been indicated, to say, I think also there are some of the things that I believe would also be of the interest in developing, I think, the policy that as the minister have said already. So, given the time, I think I have to stop here.
Okay, thank you. It's very difficult, I know, and I appreciate to tell PhD candidates or perhaps very smart individuals like you that you only have 5 minutes to present a topic that has so much to say. But thank you nonetheless for trying your best to stick to it. And I think just to remind the following speakers that you will have a timer that comes up that will tell you where you are, and when your 5 minutes is finish, if you can kindly wrap up, because there'll be plenty of time for us to discuss further amongst one another after lunch when we do get into the networking session. And as has already been made the case by Ms. Nomonde, the purpose of today is not just to make it an event and talk today and not meet again until next year, but to continue the conversations going forward. So, ma'am, I hand over to you. We've heard from the PhD candidates right now. We are going to hear from the members of the academic institutions, beginning with Ms. Emma from Nelson Mandela University. Your 5 minutes begins now.
All right, thank you very much. Before I start, I'd just like to apologize on behalf of the Chair of Human Settlement, Professor S.J. Mbanga, who couldn't be here because he's currently engaged in his inaugural lecture, which is on Thursday, and we hope to see all of you there. All right, thank you. All right, so the topic for today is research as an enabler of innovative human settlement development and the role of youth. If we look at the current climate change situation, if we look at how the urban areas are, if we look at SDG 9 and 11, which respectively look at industry, innovation and technology, it also looks at sustainable cities. It is important that when we look at human settlements, innovation is paramount to make it more sustainable in the long term. When we look at youth, youth are influential when it comes to what we do as a business, not just in academia, but also in industry. So they are change makers in the field. And of course, whatever they do, their innovation, their research is very much novel, and it gives great perspective in the space of human settlement. I will touch on one or two examples as we get along. The potential for research to inspire innovation in human settlements, and obviously its distinctive role that youth play, is the focus of this very, very short presentation that I need to finish in 3 minutes. All right, so what is the role of research in the business or in the area of human settlements? Research helps us to identify needs and challenges. There's no point to engage in any human settlement objective, endeavors, projects, if we don't know the needs of the communities and if we don't know the challenges that the communities face. That's number one. Number two, if we look at research provides innovative solutions. Solutions that will make a difference, solutions that solve the challenges, solutions that bridge the gap that has been identified, obviously, through various identification projects. Innovation in itself in human settlements is vital in the sense that while we know the challenges, we cannot address them unless we come up with new technologies that are either fast, that are quick, that are sustainable, also very much friendly to the environment. So if we look at how the role of research, we're looking at solutions that include, building practices. We look at cities and innovative and green infrastructure. We also look at sustainable building materials, and it's very much profound and linked to the ISBT that is currently the focus of the National Department of Human Settlements. And then, of course, there's policy development. We cannot implement ISBTs, we cannot implement innovation if policy does not enhance the adoption of it, right? So when we do research provides a platform to develop, it provides a platform to engage, it provides a platform to support equitable, sustainable human settlements. And then, of course, there's community engagement. We cannot just go into a community to develop. We cannot just go into a community and enforce innovation. There needs to be community participation, buy-in, in terms of all the research or all the innovations that are being created through the research endeavors. Now, youth. Our youth are vibrant. If you go to our stall outside, you'll find 2 of our Mandela students. As I get along, I will tell you how innovative those 2 individuals are. In fact, there's a 3rd one who couldn't join us. However, youth always come with great perspectives, different initiatives. They're advocates, they lead. When they're passionate about something, they're at the forefront of it. Then there's collaboration and participation. How can our youth innovate if we don't provide them with the support and platform? We're talking about funding. We were so excited, myself and my colleague, when our Honorable Minister mentioned funding. We were like, oh yes, we're getting money. And our students were also very happy about that. Why? Because we are engaging in innovative projects that requires funding. It requires, some sort of a catalyst to help our youth innovate solutions for the problems that we face. And then, of course, last but not least, is the education part. Educating our young people, right? Not just to follow the status quo, but to break boundaries, to break barriers, and to also, go beyond what they know in terms of the academic space, but to try and solve issues. Bringing it all together, right? At Mandela University, we propose, or we have in mind what we call the Center of Alternative Sustainable Building Technologies and Infrastructure. At the center, right, we aim to enhance youth-led initiatives. These are pilot projects that enhance and give the necessary support to youth to develop innovative solutions within the academic space, whether it's a master's level or whatever the case is. We don't want research that sits in libraries. We want research that makes an impact. And then collaboration. We've got to collaborate with stakeholders. We've got to collaborate with our banks. We've got to collaborate with our institutions, right? My colleague, Mr. Mashalaba, will share, please, perhaps maybe share with the minister. That is a brick, if you can all turn and have a look. Yanela, please stand. Thank you. That was developed by the 2 students outside. Innovation from waste material. So it's already started, but they need a platform to commercialize this, to make it an alternative material of choice, right? So in conclusion, before I conclude, this was a project called the Ndlambe EcoSun project, very much a project that collaborated with stakeholders, industry, international partners, the community. We have the CSIR involved, NHBRC, and so on and so forth. But that's just one example of the many projects that our university is involved in. So in conclusion, innovative human settlements can obviously be fostered when we get to the junction of research and youth involvement. The one plays off on the other, right? So if we look at urban areas, they can be more sustainable, they can be resilient, right? But we need to there should be a welcoming research community. There should be an enabling, something that enhances, promotes, encourages young people to take up their space in that entire process of innovation. And then, of course, to tackle the problems of urbanization and to reach the Sustainable Development Targets, we're looking at the SDGs to mitigate climate change. We must prioritize investments and, of course, research in capacitating our young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emma, and also Yonela, for bringing us that example of innovation in action. So last speaker, then Dr. George Okachukwu, who will just essentially wrap this up for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, the Honorable Minister, and thank you, National Department, for this invitation, which you extended to University of Johannesburg. I'm Dr. George Onato from Department of Urban and Regional Planning. My presentation outline, I look at human settlements. In terms of what we do, I take the students, if you look at what the DG actually in his opening remark took us, we need to know where we are starting from. So one of the things which we equally do with the youth is equally to take them through in terms of where we are coming from human settlements. From the era of public housing, we look at 1992 in terms of housing accord. I equally try to bring the youth at par in terms of Bashabelo Accord of 1994. Then we get to housing white paper together with the constitutional issues. Then we now come to the current era of 21st century innovative housing. So this is the outline of my presentation. We look at, in terms of evictions, demolitions, and we equally try to do our research in relation to the fact that these particular settings equally impact a lot in terms of socioeconomic need of the poor, inequality, marginalization, segregation. Then we equally take our youth through human rights, Declaration of Human Rights of 1945, with regards to where the South African Constitution is coming from. Then I equally take through areas of case studies. These are best world practice case studies, which we equally use in our human settlement research. You take, for example, Brazil. The new current citywide upgrading strategy is equally one of the things which we equally borrow from Brazil, where we see NGOs, universities, as well as private sectors working together in terms of informal settlement upgrade. So we are looking at a new era where we are looking at informal settlement, not in terms of criminalization of the poor, but equally to look at them in terms of the current approach, in terms of in-suit upgrade, in terms of providing socioeconomic opportunities, which they are equally part of the city. Then equally look at Singapore. Singapore is one of the countries in terms of, I've been assisting the National Department in terms of policy review, public housing, where we have 85% of their population having house ownership, secure tenure. So we take our students through those best areas in terms of case studies to be able to understand that these are some of the areas of which they can now be able to assist in terms of policy review and our legislation. Then these are some of the aspects in terms of white paper. We equally look at backlogs, housing as a human right, constitution, that everybody should have access to housing, and the state should use all legislative measures, and nobody should be evicted from their home without the order of court. So our youth need to understand that South Africa is one of the countries in the world whereby human settlement is a constitutional issue. Then we equally look at innovative building technologies or innovative building system. I'm happy Refilwe has already touched on this. Modular housing. Henny is not here. Then equally in terms of new smart cities and designs and disaster preparedness. The case of what happened in KZN is something we equally need to look into in terms of our research. Capacity building. We look at leveraging capacity NGOs. I have a student. Please, if you are my student here, can you stand up quickly? Adele is here, George is here, and then Chantla. These are students who are equally doing research, NGOs. They are equally looking at how to strengthen building plan approval, especially human settlements. Then we are looking at a current era. This is a period of human settlement practitioners to take a center stage, especially when you look at SDG 2 and the new urban agenda, which we all signed in Quito in 2016. Then we equally look at our institutions. We have a master's program, which is the first flagship, which we are teaching together with the University of Zimbabwe, which I'm the person who is actually driving that process. And in this particular area, we equally see how we can equally be able to enhance, to upskill in terms of knowledge creations. Sponsorship, I'm happy the minister as well as the DG, they have equally touched on it. We're equally looking to see how we can support the youth, especially for master's bursaries, PhD programs, which most of them, they equally find it very difficult in terms of completing their studies at recorded times. So this is my last slide, where I now reflect on one of the key words of philosophers of Singapore governing body, which says, we need to think ahead. We need to think again. And we equally need to think across both the private sector, the public sector, as well as NGO, together with all stakeholders. We are all in the same basket, and we need to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And at this stage, I would just like to see if there is anyone in the room who has anything further to add, either via a question to one of the presentations. I see your hand at the back, so thank you. Or there's a couple of hands. Okay, so we will take just a brief 10 minutes or so just for questions. So can I just encourage us all to try be as brief as possible in the delivery of your questions so we can get through as many as is possible. Can you put your hands up again just so that the ushers who do have the mics can come to you? Okay. Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you to the panelists. I'm Amira Osman, Sachi Chair in Spatial Transformation from TUT. I have a few points. I'll be very brief. We need experimental pilot projects that are implemented with diverse partners. And then we need to identify the successful pilots and roll it out at scale. I'm hoping, there wasn't reference to it today, but there's too much reference to a housing ladder. I would like us to rather start referring to a vibrant, functioning, and diverse housing ecosystem. My fourth point, a house unit, however innovative, will not solve the housing problem. My fifth point, housing does not imply houses. We're looking for multifamily, multi-story, multifunctional structures, catering for diverse income levels within the same development. Housing is about food production, public space, parks, wastewater management. A home could also be a bed. We need to think about that. We need to shift our thinking and practice away from approaches that address specific people with specific housing products or typologies. Rather, we need systems and a financial infrastructure that generates a diversity in offerings, addressing diverse needs. This system needs to be self-regulating in a well-functioning housing ecosystem. I hope that just adds a little bit of extra items to the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It does. So there's a couple of hands. Okay, we'll take.
Thank you very much.
There's a gentleman there at the back first.
Thank you very much. I'll try and be brief.
Please, your colleagues here also would like some question time.
I'll speak in bullet form then.
All right.
Nomunde, sorry, my name is Pragastan Chetin. I'm in modular construction. Nomunde, your concept and thinking around silo effects is remarkable. I'd like to add one step further to that. It's very ego-driven. Elliot, let the people build. Brilliant. There's a fantastic international model called Patrimonia Hoy in Mexico. It actually turned out to be a financial model, Harvard Business Studies, fantastic academic studies. If we can replicate that in South Africa, it will be fantastic. Rafaelwe, 3D printing. The future is about innovation, and innovation is about change. It's as simple as that. How's that for brief?
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. And great listening skills there to provide feedback on the bulk of the presentations. The next hand? All right, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosenda Hendrickse. I'm from the Department of Public Administration and Governance at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Thank you for wonderful presentations. What I note is that research discussed here happens in silos. So we have to move away from isolated research and start focusing on transdisciplinary approaches to research where different disciplinaries give input into the construction of human settlements. And the elephant in the room that no one has touched upon this morning is construction mafias and the impact they have on hampering the delivery of houses. And I will just leave it there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I do know that is one of the sort of the major points and major agendas that the government, the new minister says he's targeting. Notwithstanding the point that you do make is very valid. Thank you. The next.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Danny Fifi. Mine is based on what has been said here, especially from the strategy that is going to, zoom into funding those that are doing masters and PhD. I want to propose that in as much as we may like, ice cream, but we need as well to consider what made this ice cream so delicious. It's the good pasture that this cow was grazing on a daily basis. And perhaps even the shepherd might have contributed to that. I'm driving to a point that I propose that let's review this strategy of funding, including, and as well as, you know, getting the cream de la cream from the grade 11s, 12s, groom them to follow a junior degree in human settlements, honors degree in human settlements. Then we produce, you know, that funnel-like, you know, trajectory. For us to have the funding for masters and PhD will not have much. Well, I didn't ask the gatekeeper, the security there, but most of us here have, you know, aged. And if you check from the universities, how many students are doing human settlements related studies are very meek. So I propose, I know that Rome wasn't built in one day, but it was seen one day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the last question there before we do wrap up and move on to some closing remarks. Thanks, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Edith Simpi. I'm from Central University of Technology in the Free State. Thank you very much for all the presentations. I think mine is just want to make an input to the recommendations, especially if we want to take advantage of our youth as in student and postgraduate students, that in support of the strategy today that we recommend that there should be what we call some kind of a postgraduate or student chapter, which is aligned to the strategy, and the student chapter in its own will sustain the strategy in terms of once the student has left the university, that initiatives remain and can be sustained by universities. And secondly, to say some of the programs which should be taking place under the student chapter, it's more of an annual call, the same as what is done by NRF, to students to give them a platform where the students in South Africa can get together and come have a discussion about their research, but most importantly, to understand the policies which come from government, because sometimes it's the misunderstanding of the policies and the lack of correct implementation that perceptions are, policies are not working. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to you all. I think that, I mean, this is research in action. Thanks so much for your input. So not many questions, but okay, so we're allowed to take one more. Askies. Okay, can we come to you now? Can we get a mic? Does she have a mic by her? Perfect.
Thank you very much. My name is Pekani, a town planner. I'm very fascinated about, you know, the presentations that we have just heard, especially on the one on Strata, because you know, I was once involved in Strata. The problem that we had there is that people who located themselves there were illegal, and some of them did not have IDs. And once you evict people, after 2 days, they're there again. So I would like to see your inputs also touching on the socio-spatial aspects of planning and delivery, because the government is supposed to take care of that as well. And then with the 3D kind of building, how does that do to job creation? Because as we are having 60% unemployment, I believe creating employment for our youth, it should be everybody's business. So now if we are going to be designing and also building with those technological innovations, I believe it can work, especially for disaster management areas. But where you can do proper planning, really, we do need, you know, the regulatory, the social aspects being taken into consideration. Given that people just locate themselves on dolomitic areas, environmentally not conducive areas, and without, you know, us stand numbers and not even being permitted to live there. So I'm saying what you are bringing as students is very, very valuable, but don't forget about these other aspects that the government has to deal with. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And thank you, ma'am. And it's on that note that I think I'll close the Q&A session. Fantastic inputs that have been put forward by all of you, from dealing with the migration issue, particularly from undocumented citizens. We also had, I think, which is a wonderful idea about a post-graduate chapter, just to continue the work that's being done here. Obviously, making sure that that chapter is able to produce the right kind of ice cream by tackling or stepping in the education process quite early on to identify those capable learners who are able to pursue and help the department better fulfill its objectives here. I do like the idea around just looking around the pilot projects and looking at the particular pilots that work and maybe leveling them up. And I think a valid point was also made around the construction mafia. I think that these are all points that are insightful to this discussion, and I'm sure at one stage, particularly in closing remarks, will be addressed, if not in later discussions. But on this note, I just would like to ask you to help us thank our members of the academia for their invaluable insights with a warm applause. I would like to invite you all to take your seats again and rejoin the audience at this moment. If you can just come out through here. Thank you. I do hope that you will all stay in the room with us as they... Thank you. There is another token of appreciation that would like to be extended to you, which we'll get to at the end. But in terms of the end, the finish line that we are fast approaching, at the start, we did hear that there were a number of stakeholders who also provided their input in this research strategy and process. And I would like to invite each and every one of them right now just to also give their brief message of support of what has been launched here and or the hopes that are in place for the future. So can the following individuals please join me on stage? Dr. Zolani Josi, from the National Research Foundation, the Director of Knowledge Advancement and Support. Also, Mr. Mahlubi, Chief Mabizela, from the University of South Africa, the Director there, Operations and Sector Support. Can we also have Ms. Selailo Ramohlale, who will be representing the CEO of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, for the message of support from the CSIR. Professor Sarah Muswetsa. Professor Sarah Muswetsa, she's coming from the Human Science Research Council, the Chief Executive Officer. Dr. Johannes Malaudzi. You're here, sir. Thank you, from the South Africa Planners Institute. Also, Mr. Edward Molopi. Is Mr. Edward in the room with us? He's coming. He's representing the Habitat International Coalition. And so, Dr. Zolani, sir, please, can you lead us in these processions of the message of support?
Honorable Minister, all the MECs, I think there are 2 MECs, DG, honorable guest, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The NRF is delighted to be one of the organizations that has been identified to partner with the Department of Human Settlements in developing and implementing this research strategy. The strategic objectives of this strategy, specifically the development of policies informed by data and development of knowledge hub, are aligned to the key functions of the NRF. And I think the minister also mentioned the issue of policies that need to be informed by data. And some of these key functions that the NRF actually is playing a role in and will also play a role in supporting the strategy is advancing knowledge through research and innovation support, human capital development, through funding of postgraduate students and researchers in all the South African public universities, as well as the science councils. A translation of research findings to practical applications that benefit society. I think the minister also mentioned basic and applied research, and our focus actually is to, as much as we do support basic research, is to support impactful research, most of it which is applied, transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. NRF will support the thematic areas identified in this strategy, and through its funding instruments, we've got over 20 to 50 funding instruments, but the key ones that are aligned to the strategy is your South African Research Chair, and the postgraduate scholarship program, and the new instrument that is actually will be based on thematic support, as well as science engagement programs that we have that will assist with the dissemination of knowledge to the public and also to schools in general. We look forward to partner with all the key stakeholders that are identified in implementing this strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And before we continue, can I just also ask that you check your pockets and your bags if you are missing a set of car keys? I have them. Just make sure that you check, because you won't go very far without them. I would like to invite our next speaker for his message of support, Mr. Mahlubi Mabizela.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Honorable Minister Kubai, the Honorable MEC Motara, Honorable MEC Mukwena, Director General, Dr. Alec Mowemi, the NRF CEO represented by Dr. Josi, CSIR represented by Dr. Ramo Hale, HSRC CEO, Dr. Muswetsa, then the Habitat International Coalition Director of Research, Ms. Royston, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's still good morning. Thank you for inviting universities, South Africa. Yes, Program Director, this is the mistake people make. They think that we are UNISA. We are universities, South Africa. And thank you to the Department of Human Settlements for considering us as partners in your journey of seeking solutions to challenges relating to human settlements in South Africa. It is a partnership we welcome wholeheartedly. Now, to Universities South Africa, and not to be confused with UNISA, it is an association of the vice chancellors of the 26 universities in the country. It is a non-profit organization whose board, therefore, are the 26 vice chancellors. Just a brief history, because it's got a very long history. Probably that's the reason why it is not known much. It used to exist as what was called the Committee of University Principals, or CUP, or you probably could call it CAP, until 1992. And also its counterpart was the Committee of Technical Principals, also until 1992, and then it merged to form the South African Vice Chancellors Association from 1993, then changed the name when the universities merged in 2005 to Higher Education South Africa, then changed the name again in 2014 to Universities South Africa. So that's our genesis. It operates through communities of practice and research and strategic groups. Just to mention the strategic groups only: the funding strategy group, the leadership and management strategy group, research and innovation strategy group, teaching and learning strategy group, transformation, and the world of work. In our partnership with the Human Settlements, we think that we will locate the partnership within the research and innovation strategy group. We may not be known indeed, but our work speaks for itself. The higher health that you heard a lot about during COVID has its history from within USAF. Our flagship programs, the entrepreneurship in higher education, entrepreneurship development in higher education is widely known across the sector, and some university graduates were assisted through the matriculation board, which is part of the responsibilities of USAF. Now you know us. We appreciate that the department seeks to make its policies research-driven. In our view, there is no other method other than research-based policy decisions. After all, policy and research have a symbiotic relationship. Policies are better with research, while research gets better with implementation of policies. The qualification in this relationship is, of course, implementation. This would mean, therefore, the research strategy we are launching today shall be effective as far as it is implemented by the department. In the implementation of your strategy, therefore, you require partners, and it is at this juncture that we come in together with other entities that are engrossed in research. We therefore welcome your research strategy. The other element of that symbiotic relationship is that it leads to the necessary investment in research, such ensures the necessary recognition of integrity of research and its sustenance into the future. In turn, therefore, our relationship between the Department of Human Settlements and our universities must be inseparable. USAF is there to facilitate that relationship. We partner and collaborate on issues of interest to higher education in South Africa, as well as on matters of national interest. In the partnership, we offer advice and indeed solicit the collective wisdom of USAF processes. We have already met with Dr. Hugo and his team, and likely to work through, as I said, our research and innovation strategy group. We look forward to work with you to solve the problems of human settlements in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we hope the current name is the last one in your history and your future. And to represent or to give the message of support from the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research on behalf of the CEO, Ms. Selailo Ramohlale.
Thank you, Program Director. Greetings to the Honorable Minister Kubai, Honorable MECs, the leadership of the Department of Human Settlements at national and in provinces, the leadership of the entities of the Department of Human Settlements, the leadership of various research councils, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests. On behalf of the CSIR, I extend sincerest congratulations to the department for the launch of the Human Settlements Research Agenda. This is a significant milestone to foster sustainable, inclusive, and resilient human settlements across the country. This research agenda is aligned to the vision, the mission, the values and strategic objectives of the CSIR, in which, as part of our vision, we see ourselves as accelerators of socioeconomic prosperity. And part of our values is working collaboratively with the various stakeholders across the country and in the region. The CSIR supports the agenda, is committed to supporting the agenda of human settlements through our expertise in multidisciplinary research and technology innovation. We already have a research group called Human Housing and Urban Studies, which is dedicated to housing, and it sits within the cluster of smart places under inclusive smart settlements and regions. Some of the work that the CSR has been involved in includes IBTs. And for knowledge management, we have the Urban Knowledge Exchange Southern Africa, which is an online repository platform, which you can access for free. It offers a network of organization and information that is designed to support a capable state and build a contribution to sustainable human settlements in rural and urban settlements. And we believe that working together in this research agenda, we can address some of the complexities facing urban and rural communities around sustainable human settlements. We look forward to collaborating closely with the Department of Human Settlements and other stakeholders to drive this impactful research agenda, and believe that through research and development, we will be able to produce evidence that will lead to impactful decision-making in the space of human settlements. Congratulations once again on this important achievement. The CSIR stands ready to support and contribute to the successful implementation of the human settlements research agenda. I thank you.
And next, representing the Human Science Research Council, Professor Moswetsa.
Thanks, Program Director Fifi. It is indeed Sarah Moswetsa. Let me say a couple of introductory remarks. First, Honorable Minister, good morning to MECs, esteemed guests, and the leadership collective of the Human Settlement. See, I'm used to saying Human Sciences Research Council, Human Settlements. We are all human after all. Greetings, everyone. This is a remarkable achievement, and the timing couldn't have been much more perfect. For HSRC, we are indeed in the final stages of developing our 5-year strategic plan without even knowing where we were getting at with the Human Settlement Department. This department forms part of what we have been thinking about as HSRC in prioritizing our research agenda. I also want to agree with Fifi that of all the ministers that I know, this one takes a mandate very seriously. She even works on Sundays till very late. Let me also say that this is one of the ministers who reads very well and very thoroughly, and I have a pack, Minister, for you of books, because research without a foundation, a particular theoretical foundation, a particular political foundation, remains useless, especially in the context of South Africa and the Global South. It is a great honor for me, representing HSRC, to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Department of Human Settlement on the successful launch of your new research strategy. It is an honor to address you on a matter that lies at the heart of sustainable development, of social justice, human settlements. The importance of research in shaping effective human settlement policy cannot be overstated. This milestone today that we are celebrating is a testament to our unwavering commitment to advancing evidence-based policies that will shape the future of housing and urban development in South Africa. For South Africa, and indeed for our African continent. At the Human Sciences Research Council, we recognize the critical importance of research in addressing complex challenges facing human settlements, whether they relate to urbanization, social inequality, or sustainable development. By embedding research at the core of your policy development processes, you are taking a decisive step towards creating more inclusive, resilient, and equitable communities for all South Africans. Indeed, it is not a house that we are building communities that were forgotten by the former regime. I want to just mention four quick things that bring all of us here together under the leadership of our minister. First, good policy and implementation is informed policy. When we develop human settlement policies, we are tasked to solving complex, multifaceted issues that require us to understand not only the current realities, but also the future dynamics of our communities, and indeed the histories of those communities. This is where research plays a critical role. I want to emphasize social sciences research in collaboration with many other sciences present in this room. It is not just about brick and mortar or those technologies that we are seeing. It is also about the human beings that reside in those communities. It is about the men and women that have been dispossessed previously. It is about the youth that are looking to all of us present in this room under the leadership of the minister for a better future of building communities that were never imagined. Indeed, as you all know, as I look in this room, 99% of us were supposed to be in Nkofimvaba, happy in some rural areas, and never part of a very vibrant Soweto community. And it is through this department, in particular what we are celebrating today, that through data collection, analysis, and empirical insights, we will gain a deeper understanding of the housing needs, challenges, and aspirations of our people. Evidence-based research ensures that policy decisions are not based on assumptions or outdated practices, but are instead grounded in facts driven by the realities on the ground and capable of addressing contemporary challenges such as inequality, poverty, and indeed unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. Your research strategy, Minister, and the collective leadership of the department signals a forward-thinking approach, ensuring that policy decisions will be informed by the latest data, innovative methodologies, and insights into real needs and experiences of our people, and the meanings that they attach to their communities and their families. This is a significant contribution not only to the department, but to the broader agenda of social justice, sustainable development in our country. As always, Minister, I'm hoping that other departments, you are leading by example, and other departments will prioritize research at the heart of policy development, implementation, and monitoring. Addressing inequality is about building inclusive communities. Research highlights the stark disparities in housing quality and access between different socio-economic groups Class matters, particularly in rapidly urbanizing regions, as we heard earlier on. These inequalities allows us to design policies that promote inclusivity. For example, research can reveal how marginalized communities are disproportionately affected by inadequate housing, poor infrastructure, and limited access to basic services. By using this evidence, policymakers can craft interventions that ensure everyone, especially the most vulnerable, our youth, our women, human settlements, as I conclude, human settlements policies should integrate sustainability principles, as today we mark the important agenda of housing and human settlements. In the age of climate change, it is crucial that human settlement policies integrate sustainability principles, research into innovative building technologies, green infrastructure, energy-efficient housing models provide the foundation for policies that align with global environmental goals. One of the great strengths of research is its ability to look ahead and predict future challenges and opportunities. One of the great strengths, therefore, is what we are celebrating today. This foresight is essential in human settlements, where policy decisions taken today can have far-reaching consequences for generations to come. I don't want to overemphasize the points that have been made: collaboration, 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 innovation through research. As the HSRC, we look forward to collaborating and working and continue working with the Department of Human Settlement in implementing this strategy, drawing on our shared commitment to research excellence and a common vision for creating transformative change in housing and human settlements. Once again, congratulations, Honorable Minister and your team, on this remarkable achievement. We are excited as the HSRC about the future and the important role that research will play in shaping policies that positively impact the lives of millions of women and youth and South Africans. I thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And to share the brief remarks of the South African Planners Institute, Dr. Mulaudzi.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me greet the Honorable Minister, MECs, DGs, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. You know, the disadvantage of coming at the end, you know, they've taken my speech. But anyway, as SAPI, we are honored to be part of the special launch of the much needed human settlement strategy. We are encouraged by the prospects of what this initiative seeks to achieve. The continuous development planning and housing challenges tells us that there is a need to consider research as a foundation for any intervention. To this end, the introduction of the Human Settlement Research Strategy is more appropriate to be undertaken now than later. Honorable Minister, our recent Planning Africa conference, which was held in Durban, which was entitled Sustainable Future, From Theory to Practice, highlights SAPI's commitment to further the agenda of enhancing and promoting research in the human settlement sector. As the keynote speaker, Honorable Minister, I believe that you have got the first-hand knowledge of our commitment to create sustainable and integrated human settlements within our current context. Honorable Minister, as we prioritize research, it is imperative that as a nation we adopt and embrace new technologies as they evolve. We are further mindful of the fact that partnerships are critical for this dream to flourish. As SAPI, we are fully support to the human settlement strategy. We pledge to participate in the identified key priority areas. As a non-profit voluntary organization which aims to promote the planning profession, we commit to mobilize our members across all sectors of planning, from private sector, public sector, academia, NGO, CBOs. We are looking forward to the implementation of the human research settlement research strategy. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. And of course, last but not least, speaking on behalf of the Habitat International Coalition, Mr. Edward Mlupi. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me align myself with the greetings that have been passed. Suffice it to say, greetings to you, Honorable Minister Kubai, greetings to the MSCs in our presence, and to the Human Settlements leadership at large, both at provincial and at national level, and to all distinguished guests. My name is Edward Mlupi. I am from the Socioeconomic Rights Institute, popularly known as SERI, which is also a member of the HIC, which is what I'm here standing for today. And we are thankful, dear Minister, for inviting us and partnering with us in this human settlements research strategy. We think this is a very important and it's an important milestone in the development of policy that is going to be informed and also attentive and also reactive to the realities that we face on the ground. We look forward to partnering with you, particularly as the communities that are affected by the housing need and the housing crisis, not only just as participants for research purposes in terms of research subjects, but also as producers of knowledge, recognizing the agency that communities have in order to put through their lived experiences in informing policy and ensuring that all that we have lived with and our experiences find proclamation and find relevance within the research that is being conducted. I stand here to pledge our allegiance and our support for the research strategy, and we will look forward to engaging further as we work together for the development of our communities and advancing our constitutional goals that we have set as a country, and also the SDGs that we have looked for as the international community and also as South Africa nationally. Thank you.
And thank you to you all for your messages of support and your commitments to collaborate, of course, with all stakeholders here in the room. I'd like to invite you all to take and rejoin the audience in your seats. Thank you. Wonderful. And so, yes, sir. Oh, it's your keys. What keys are they? No, sir. I've got them. I'll give it to you in just a short while. So we have come to almost the end of the program for today. In a very short while, you will be able to enjoy your lunch just out there, I believe, where we have been taking all our treats. and you'll be able to continue with the conversation of collaboration and networking with fellow stakeholders. But before we get there, just to help us understand what next, now the strategy has been launched and we've heard the various inputs, what the way forward is. I would like to hand over to the next speaker who will be leading us in the conclusion section of today's event. And we saw the MEC a little bit before, but we never heard from the MEC, and now we have an opportunity to both see and hear from the MEC. Mokoena of the Free State, sir. MEC Mokoena. Oh, he did hear me. The stage is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I was just directed to say, I must just say something, just anything. So, and then sit down, wait for the lunch. But thank you very much, Minister Kubai, the Minister of Human Settlement. Let me greet you. Greet my host, MEC Mutara, the DG of Human Settlement, members of the academia, invited guests, I greet you. Once again, let me thank the Minister for this kind of a session and the invite extended. Let me also appreciate the presentation made by the DG as well as members of the academia, including the messages by the partners identified. Research-driven human settlement is key for the creation of modern, productive settlement that are necessary for a decent living. The session of today demonstrates a combination of research, technology, and innovation that is key to building cities of the future. This is one of those critical steps to answer the pressing needs of settlement in relation to challenges of land availability in metropolitan areas. Innovative interventions driven by research and technology is central if we are to build for the future. Human habitat has always been dynamic and responsive to the conditions of their time, and in our case, as we respond to the future habitat challenges, we must factor elements of increased adverse climatic conditions that we see today. At the policy level, we must answer the question of how youth see the future, and in this space, at the policy level, we must answer the question of how the youth sees the future in the space, as we see represented by the type of innovations that are beginning to emerge in the sector. Our planning must answer the integration of both settlement and production centers, as opposed to the past separation of the two, with severe economic impact on the poor and the working class. Going forward, we must answer how do we build in a manner that allows commerce and industry to function and grow in a way that enables productive settlement. How can research and innovation help to unleash the township economy that is still constrained by the historical planning? This work here must ensure that we build a future in a manner that enables economic life of our settlement. At the policy level and various levels, require this work if we are to solve productive settlement where even the poor can live and work in a manner desirable for a decent living. More conversation with identified partners is critical at all levels of government if we are to achieve sustainability. Minister, I would like to thank you for this initiative and hope that the sessions of this nature can be expanded and regularized to measure progress we are making as a society. Once again, thank you very much and thanks for the invite extended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC Mokoena. As we wrap up, my team knows I'm particular about time, starting on time and finishing on time. when you have committed for people to be at a place. Maybe before I close, can I request the panels and our guest speakers to come forth and for the teams to bring the gifts as a token of appreciation from the department and the sector, because this is sector-driven. We are a concurrent function. That's why we see the MECs here. We work together. We just came from our MINMEC last week, Thursday, in Free State. We were hosted by MEC Mukwena. So we would like to give you a token of appreciation, colleagues, if you can come through. I'm not so sure you are like me where you have to declare. So when I get anything, I must declare. So if it's declaration, I hope it falls within the categories.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think it's just a token of appreciation to those who continue to help us be able to fulfill our work. There are just one or two things that I thought before we close I can reflect upon that are critical. One of the colleagues spoke about the issue of construction mafia, which is, he called it the elephant in the room. I've had sessions, especially with women. We had women in Daba, in Kimberley, and part of what came out of that in Daba was the issue of construction mafias, affecting especially our women contractors, but more so as an issue that affects the budgeting process, where contractors now have to put, in terms of their work, funds for security. And that has been an issue that has been flagged with us as government to have to deal with. We are currently talking to the security cluster. There's work that is started to be put together. We're hoping that we'll start seeing action, but also response in that regard, so that we are able to build better and faster and within budget. So it's not something that we've put at the back. We didn't prioritize highlighting it in this session because we always talk about it, and therefore we will deal with it. I was excited to hear Mr. Lidiga when he talked about building a smart village. So we agreed with MEC Mutar. He's got a meeting with Johannesburg tomorrow. So one of the issues I said, please ask them where is the progress, because I didn't see it in their business plan. So you have literally put them on the map. I will be looking for it in their business plan if they have committed that way, so that we can see the work being done. On the students, the PhD candidates, I just want to say it's quite important, but encouraging to listen to what is being researched upon, and also the areas that are being covered. I think from issues of service sites, I know that people might have even misunderstood at some point. We do provide for service sites currently as government, but we need to expand more. We have to balance that, especially with our obligation in terms of the Constitution to be able to provide shelter for the vulnerable. So I know I want to clarify it. As much as we embrace it as a sector, we still acknowledge our obligation, so that Siri doesn't call me now and say, we are going to go to court with you now, Minister. We have found each other, so we shouldn't find a fighting platform. So there is multifaceted approach that we do. And that's why research must continue to identify these gaps in our provision of our services so that we can be able to deal with. Innovative technologies, the team was saying, we actually had planned NHBRC to lead in a summit of alternative and innovative technologies, and hope institutions such as UJ, CSIR can be able not only to come and participate, but showcase what we've got across the country, including Nelson Mandela University, because it's the future. We've got to build differently. Brick and mortar in the current format is not the future. That we've got to acknowledge. It contributes a lot in terms of carbon emission, and we have an obligation to reduce carbon emission as a country based on our commitment in terms of the reduction of carbon emission. So that, for me, is one of the things that I want to highlight. I'm not going to respond to everything. I'm just pulling out some of the issues that came through that I thought, as a minister, I need to close the gap on. The issue, and I want to say, one example for, I need to say with Prof. Muswitsa, I fight with Shra most of the time, and I make reference to your research paper. I don't know if many of you have read. HSRC has done a study where they found that as a portfolio, we are continuing to perpetuate apartheid spatial planning, meaning that we are building more and more for people far away from economic opportunities. It's one of the studies that is worth reading. So it challenges us to be able to change the patterns, and this is what I use when I engage with Shra. We've got a session that we are going to have later this year with all the SHIs, but repositioning Shra to be able to respond. And that's where the concept even of being able to change our inner city buildings into human settlements building or gap market building, it's also trying to respond to that. So I'm making this example so that you know that when you do this research, it will not gather dust. We'll definitely read it. When it adds value to our work, we'll use it, as I'm making this reference. And quite a number of research papers that they've produced. They've been quite good in bringing the social element of it and the humanities part of it in terms of the report, the research. So it's very good that we'll be able to. The other time we were talking with Gauteng, when I was telling them that we can't continue to be paying for honeysuckers toilets. These are temporary toilets that are being, and when we have research that has been done by CSIR on alternative sanitation. So this is what we want to enforce into our portfolios, and I hope, DDG Mhlongo, as we work, we've asked universities to give us their priorities. Not all universities have given us priorities in terms of research areas for us to be able to fund that will add value. As I said, it has to respond to our current challenge. The issue of planners, I met with them in Durban when I addressed them, and I said the planning in the country has to change. The current, for example, the stormwater drainage, in terms of specs, in terms of how we build, has to change. Because we're seeing the number of milliliters of rain that we used to have previously and what we are having today has changed the landscape of how we are living. So our cities, our communities, in terms of infrastructure, details, in terms of infrastructure build, has to be different. And we need the planners at the center of it. They've got to be able to drive it. And the last point for me is the NGOs. That's why SERI is one of the important sectors for us. We had an NGO summit, and being able to bring in NGOs in the research space into this work shows that we are just not saying NGOs must help us to do free work and just be advocate work for us as government, but become active participant of our programs. And we'll continue to do that as per our commitment last year in the summit to say NGOs will be part of the ecosystem, will play a role, including, for example, in informal settlements, where some of the NGOs are helping us with the reblocking, and also the issue of being able to converse with communities on our behalf. So all of us have a role to play in the entirety of the ecosystem of human settlements, end to end, from issues of manufacturing capacity in the country. Currently, when you talk to service providers or contractors, they tell you about the manufacturing that is too expensive. The alternative building technologies must close that gap so that we build alternative building technologies that manufacturers can go. So it's also around the issue of innovation where we do research, but the commercialization of this work that we are doing to be able to see the product. So working together with our sister department, which is DTIC, we'll have to push for commercialization of what is being produced for the sector so that we are able to see value out of it. So this is the beginning, colleagues. This is the start, and I'm looking forward to regular reports of this work that is being done. If we are able to do proper, we should be able to say regularly, when we go to various areas, whether it's social housing, whether it's in terms of the gap market, or even around informal settlements upgrading, or just dealing with climate change and resilient climate, when dealing with building sustainable and resilient communities, we should be able to produce research results that we can take even to international platforms. For example, very soon we are going to Cairo for the urban development. I know urban forum. I know that some of our universities are participating. This is what we would want to support, consciously driving the innovation and research agenda and research solutions that can be for the country, for the continent, and for the world. So we're looking forward to this work, and I am going to monitor it. Those who work with me know. I will pick up a call if a university has committed to say, this is the research that they are doing. Your VCs, because I've got all their numbers, will receive a call to say, but your university committed to working with us. We are not seeing progress. And that's the nature of me. Don't be surprised. Because we want to make sure that it's action-oriented partnership. Some of us don't believe in these things that we write on the paper. We come back next year, we review the paper. We come the following year, we review the review of the paper. Because sometimes as South Africans, we have that sickness. We have a paper that we have developed, we review it after some time, and then we gather to reviewing of the paper. It has to be action-orientated for us to see the results. And this is not for us, but it's for South Africans. In order for us to fulfill our mandate as a sector, as the Department of Human Settlements, that's what it requires us, to be action-orientated. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. Fifi, you've been a lovely, lovely program director. Thank you once more, and thank you, colleagues, for the panelists and everyone else.
Thank you, colleagues. I just have one last message, and that is to tell you exactly where lunch will be. It will be in the restaurant outside, so please do make your way there as you do continue conversations, the networking, the walking and the talking of all the action that is required. Thank you, and have a great day further.